What is up, franchise Dodger fans? Great to see you all. Welcome to another edition of the Let's Be Frank podcast, the 2025 edition. Uh, Today we're recording, what is it, September 25th of 2025. And obviously we all got the news of Clayton Kershaw retiring and it brought the boys out. But first and foremost, Frank Martinez, how you doing, man?
Well, I'm doing great to be chatting with you and with the rest of the franchise, but you know, mixed emotions obviously about the news.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think bittersweet's the kind of the universal term that everybody's using. But um, I mean, let's get right into it, man. Because when you talk about a career where no stone was left unturned, it's the career of Clayton Kershaw, and um, I think for us, just more on a personal level. I mean, this is a player that's really connected us on many levels, and so we're gonna dive deep into that. But first, I kind of just wanted to go over like a quick timeline of his career. This has been presented other places, but just so we kind of have something to grab onto. Um, and that's in 2006. He was drafted. He was a first round draft pick by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Made his debut in 2008 against the St. Louis Cardinals. 2011 won his first Cy Young Award. 2013 won his second Cy Young Award. 2014 won his third Cy Young Award and his first and only MVP award. Crazy. Won his first World Series championship in 2020 against the Rays and won his second one in 2024, although he didn't participate in the postseason. And of course, in 2025, this season announces his retirement. Just had his last home regular season start last week. Pitched out of the bullpen last night. Crazy game. Uh, but uh, but yeah, Frank. I mean, I think the first thing that maybe if we want to get into, or maybe some of his statistics that just kind of stand out to you, and they really should stand out to everybody because it's kind of crazy. But I don't know if you've had a chance to kind of go through the baseball reference page and kind of see what are some of the things
Yeah.
that mean something to you.
Yeah, I think obviously being the last of his kind, which we probably get into that idea, but the 3000K, I was there for that
Nice.
game. I made it a point to take my son, and I'm so glad we did. And it was such an adventure to even get there. But I don't know that we'll ever see anyone else do that just because of the way pitchers are used these days and to have not only the longevity, but also the amount of innings pitched to do that
Mhm.
doesn't look likely. So I think that stands out big time. But um, in sh considering like the sheer dominant aspect of his prime is really, I think, what made us so enamored with him.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the stats that really stands out to me for Kershaw is the fact that he is the only pitcher in history with more than 150 career starts. So that's the baseline, which is significant
Mhm.
to have more scoreless starts than losses. And
That's
and
crazy.
and and not only saying that, but it's the amount. So he had 101 career scoreless starts, and he only has 96 total losses in his career. And I mean, it just shows you that during that era, which you and I grew up in as Dodger
Hmm.
fans, where I know he only ended up with that one no hitter, which should have been a perfect game. He
Yeah,
had
thanks, Stanley.
another couple where he was removed late in his career, seven innings, seven completed innings, perfect game, perfect. But that stretch in like 2010 to like 2017-ish or whatever, where you really thought you could see a perfect game that
Yep.
like, and you almost anticipated like Kershaw Day. That's what that meant. We say that still whenever he goes,
Hmm.
but that's really what that meant. It meant Kershaw Day. You might see something historic today. So,
Yeah.
it was appointment television for like 8 years. So that's insane.
Yeah. I mean, 8 years straight of that dominance. And I mean, this is a statistic that gets poo-pooed now a little bit, but I'm gonna go to ERA. That's a 254 career ERA, and that's over the course of 18 seasons. Um, the guys that we can kind of compare it to in this era, or it's always gonna be, I think Scherzer and Verlander, kind of the guys that
Hmm.
that he's gonna get grouped with. Just so you guys know, those guys are well over 3 ERAs like in career because I think a lot of guys get punished by the first few years and the last few years of their careers.
Right.
Kershaw didn't, man. I think that there was only 2 seasons where he had an ERA over 4. One of them was his first season. I think only on like maybe 20 appearances. Not all of them were starts, and he was kind of just working out the kinks. And the last one was last season actually, but he made like I think it was like 5 appearances or 7 appearances or something like that. So um, every other season was an ERA under 4. Many of them under 3. I think I'm gonna look at this right now. I think it was one, two, three. There was like a, I don't know. There was like a long streak of where every single season he was lowering his career ERA. It was like it
Oh,
might have been
right.
that like 2010 to 2017 range around
I
there.
think that was even past that into the
Yeah,
like 2020s. Yep.
which is crazy. That's nuts. And that just goes to show like he's gonna come in, he's gonna give you a chance to win every single day. And I think I mean as LA sports fans, the parallels that you can kind of draw are the obvious one is Kobe Bryant, right? And kind of just the longevity and his whole entire career playing with one team. And I remember with Kobe, it was like if Kobe's on the court, you're gonna have a chance to win. You could be down by 15, you could be down by 17, like you're gonna stick around and watch the third, fourth quarter. And I think the baseball equivalent is that like you are not going to have your best stuff, right? How many times do we see that, right? He's missing a pitch, right? Like, oh, his cutter or sorry, his slider is not doing what it normally does. He doesn't have his curveball today. Fastball command's maybe not there, but he still give you 6 innings and sometimes more, and a chance to win. And you mentioned the 7 inning, what is it, no hitter that he was taking out. I think we could probably do a whole nother episode on the what ifs, right? Like, what if this happened? What if
Yeah,
this happened?
that would
Like,
be an episode.
but 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 yeah, I mean, I don't know. You talk about the last of his kind, like how many guys are even going to stay with one team for that long? Um, and I think yeah, here towards the end, he was doing those 1 year deals and kind of knowing that any season could be the last. But yeah, for me, that ERA, I mean, it's kind of an obvious one, I guess, but um, that one certainly stands out to me, just given like some of his peers and how it compares to that, and it matters, man. Like when people aren't scoring, like you're gonna have a better chance to win, man.
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback a little bit off ERA, the 2.54 career, but I think I saw something from like July 2011 to the same time in 2018. So however many seasons that is, 8 years, 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
He had a 1.99 ERA
That's
in that time.
long.
So if you like really, if you just look at his peak, which was almost a decade, 1.99.
Yeah, that's less than 2 runs every 9 innings. That's crazy. That's wild. Um, and you're not pitching 9 innings every game, just so you guys know. So like that's even less runs per start. Like
Right,
you average
right.
that per start. So
And you're generally scoring more than that. So
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna rack up wins. You're gonna give your chance. Your team's almost always gonna win or have a chance to win when you start.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And looking at it that way, like looking at it over the course of a career over 18 years and then maybe getting more bite-sized samples, it's like it makes it really impossible to tell the story of the Los Angeles Dodgers in its entirety without telling the story of Clayton Kershaw. And um, 2006, the Dodgers were just an entirely different organization. Like they were just not even. You go to a Dodger game in 2006 and you go to a Dodger game in 2025, unrecognizable, right? Just the experience, just anything from the fan experience to the product you see on the field, to the enthusiasm from the fan base, to just what it means to be a Dodger fan, what it's like to walk around the city, what you're seeing, how many Dodger hats you're seeing. It's, back then it was kind of a Laker town, let's be 100% honest. And I think, large in part because of people like Clayton Kershaw, and I put him at the top of the list, really, it's kind of shifted, and a lot of the success. So, I think what was it, 2013 this way, Dodgers haven't missed the playoffs. And it's not a coincidence. It's because of people like Clayton Kershaw, right, giving us a chance to win. Um, and at the end of the day, he's got 2 World Series titles, working on a third this year. Last year didn't participate as much, but it's one of those things where like you look at his career statistics and accolades, um and uh you still feel like he got shortchanged a little bit sometimes, like it's one of those things, and it almost seems unfair and crazy, but I mean, if we don't get those Don Mattingly leaving him in way too long in a playoff game. What does it look like? In the 2013 to 2016 range, like that's when he was really, really at his peak, right? Um,
Yeah.
and 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 things were just managed a certain way, and unfortunately didn't have a championship to show for it in that time. And then, I mean, 2017, I think books are going to continue to be written about that season um, because yeah, I mean that should have been the first one, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, when we go down to World Series titles, ERAs, I mean, just total starts. I mean, that one that you said about having less scoreless outings than losses is, I mean, that's ridiculous. You're not gonna
It's
ever see that again, you guys.
it's unheard of. Yeah.
It's unheard of, um, and even career like WAR. I mean, those are more modern stats, right? And they're a little subjective, I guess. I mean, you're gonna get a different number, different places you go. But I think he's got a 77.8 career WAR over 17 seasons. And how many injury riddled seasons are there?
Right.
Um, so basically, just adding to the value of the team. And I mean, almost more impressively, Frank, the last like what call it 5 seasons when we know he didn't have his best stuff, when he was getting back injuries and this and that, and um, during the season he was still winning games for us like regularly, right? This season has actually been one of my favorite Clayton Kershaw seasons.
Yeah,
Uh,
same.
he's got 10 wins. I think he's only got like 2 losses. Um, I think ERA mid three somewhere around there, and he got his 3,000 strikeout. And more than anything, Frank, like just kind of like how present he's been through the entire thing, right? Like we've seen Kershaw, and we've known what kind of person he is throughout his entire career, how regimented he is, and how much he doesn't um, try to make things about himself. But it's almost impossible to when you're reaching these career numbers. But specifically this season, Frank, like what has stood out to you, and what have you seen from Kershaw? It's been a little bit different from years past.
Obviously, it's the adjustment. I mean, it kind of impacts you in a not just as a fan, but life is all about adjustments. You know what I mean? You're always going to have to make adjustments in life in a given day, in a given time. And he's epitomized that in a given start, when um, elements change or situations change and he adjusts. And so this late in his career, us not knowing, um, maybe him kind of feeling that it was going to be his last season and still being able to make adjustments. There was a time when he kind of carried some of the pitching for us for about a month and a half. You know what I mean? And he just went out there every fifth day and did his thing and gave us a chance to win, just like normal. He played stopper a couple of times
Mm-hmm.
this season, which he
Yeah.
did during that peak run of his, for that decade where, yeah, if things were going wrong or there was a skid coming, pending skid, you throw Kershaw out there and it was going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that a little bit of that this year, and he did all that with, not having his greatest his the peak powers that he used to have, and just grinding, grind effort, but also just being a great pitcher, and just really knowing how to pitch. And that's another reason why when we talk about kind of the last of his kind is you're going to get great pitchers, but are you going to get great pitchers that can last as long and that can make the necessary adjustments later in their career when their stuff diminishes. And so this year, I think we've seen a lot of that. And even last night, for him to say, "I'll come out of the pen's been a nightmare for him, except for that one appearance in the NLDS against the Nationals. But every other time, it's been a nightmare. It's led to the narratives and all of that kind of stuff. And he says, "I'll still go do it if that's what the team needs for me. I'll go do it."
Yeah, you're right. It kind of epitomizes his career altogether. Last night it's funny. You got the Henriquez's throwing 100 miles an hour. You got you know, um, all these guys just throwing absolute gas out of the pen. And then here you have Clayton Kershaw jogging out of the pen, coming in. His first fastball is like 91 miles an hour, and he's the guy that got the clean inning. Like so.
Yeah,
Um, it just really makes you think about what pitching is, and the game, and this a thing too that's maybe undermentioned, like how much just the game has evolved since he first got in altogether, right? Like it's almost like the game was evolving away from a pitcher like Clayton Kershaw, right? As his velocity is going down, as his health was
yeah,
diminishing towards the end. All things were pointing away from what a guy like Clayton Kershaw can add. But you spoke to the adjustments he had to make. I mean, he was a fastball curveball guy to start his career, and towards the end, it was a lot of sliders, right? And it was different types of sliders. It was um, it was that that less movement slider that would kind of be more on the arm side of the plate, more looking more like a cutter, and then the one that would just dive to the back foot of the right-handed hitter, and then really making his fastball more effective, um, and obviously the curveball, right? The curveball is the pretty one. The curveball is going to be the one that we all show our kids and grandkids, and but all that said, I mean, for the game to be moving away from a guy like that, and for him to say still like, no, like I'm gonna have 18 seasons to do this, uh, and then you mentioned it like, hey, even this season, like I love what you said about him being the stopper, right? Like, hey, you got a 2 3 game skid. Here comes Clayton Kershaw in the last year of his career, and he's still gonna get you. He's still gonna give you a chance to win. It's beautiful, man. There's so many times like after Kershaw starts this season, where it's like, man, like I just love the season that he's having. I absolutely love it, and I think that's something that he probably gathered throughout the season too, and made this.
Right.
He was able to make this decision with a little more conviction because of the health issues he's had in the past. Even this season, he kind of started a little bit later, but him able um, to go out on a note where, and again, it's less about him. It's like, hey, how could he still be of value to the team, right? And in this case, I think he's in a position to do real things out of the bullpen this postseason. I don't think it's a charity spot because it's a need that we have. He's not going to be the guy that comes in and tries to blow something past the the best hitter on their team. And be that short guy. But he might come in and if the series is tied 1-1 and you need a guy to throw the fourth and fifth inning, such valuable innings. Like, let's be real. Um,
Absolutely.
I see him being that guy, and um, yeah, and I think maybe we can lead this into like some of our favorite moments because you mentioned. I guess I'll go first because I remembered it, but that 2016 NLDS Game 5 was against the Washington Nationals, um, and mind you, guys, by this time, 2013, 2014, and 2015 had already happened. Right, the Kershaw narrative is out there. It's strong, and he's won his Cy Youngs, MVPs, all that stuff, and now it's time where it's like, hey, like, well, what are you gonna do for me? And I remember in that game we brought in Kenley Jansen super super early, right? Because the bullpen looked nothing like it did. Like that year, the bullpen was not what it's been. It wasn't like a long list of names that can come in and throw 100 miles an hour and get you a
No,
couple outs and give you lefty and righty looks. It was like no, it was like how quickly can you get from Kershaw to or the starter to Kenley, and that's kind of what it was. Um, and so we all kind of were thinking like, hey, like I think Kershaw might have been on like 2 days rest or something like that, and Kenley came in. I want to say like in the seventh inning or something, and threw like 50 pitches, which is over 2+ innings. It's just crazy for a closer, especially a guy like him that's max effort. Um, and here comes Kershaw. We see Kershaw going to the bullpen, and this is in Washington. Comes out and gets the final outs there. I think the first out he was supposed to get was it Daniel Murphy?
it was
Got him
Murphy. Yep.
got him to
Pop him
pop
up.
up to the second baseman, which Daniel Murphy in that time was a dog, dude. Like
Yeah,
the guy
absolutely.
was just a
Yes.
postseason killer because the year before that he was with the Mets, right? And he just murdered us and everybody along the way. Um, and the next year, of course, we got to see him again with the Nationals, and he gets him to pop up to the second baseman, and then he strikes out Defoe, was it Defoe or one of those guys, uh,
Yeah.
to end the series, right, and to really go on to the NLCS where we met the 2016 Cubs, and it seems like that was fate for them to win it. But that really stood out, I think, to all of us in that time. We had just got bounced back-to-back seasons in the NLDS, um, and Kershaw coming out of the pen. I mean, at that time was not a thing that we had heard of, right? Like that, it's something that happened over the course of his career. But at that point, um, and so I mean, it was. I just remember the nerves. I remember being at the edge of
Yeah.
our seats, and then when you finally get the release, I mean, that similar feelings. I think last year's NLDS, right? You get bounced back-to-back years in the NLDS, and here you are, game 5, and then just waiting to get that last out so you can breathe a little bit. So that's one of my favorite moments for me, Frank. So I'm glad you brought that one up. But what's something that stood out to you?
You know what's pretty cool? It's not maybe as grandiose of a moment for the team, but more for me is the All-Star game when Kershaw pitched here in LA. I went to the game, And it was cool because when my son was born, his first Dodger game, they were giving away Kershaw jerseys that day. It was like back in 2011 or something. And it's always been where they give you a size medium or a size large, XL,
Hmm.
adult. That's it. Those are the two sizes, and so we put the jersey away for like 12 years, and then when he's pitching the All-Star game, he gets to break it out. My son he grew into it by that point, and I've got a real cool picture where he's watching Kershaw strike out Aaron Judge um, in the All-Star game. So the pickoff of Otani, just that little moment, and
Hmm.
it was just a cool thing because the fact that I was able to pass on that fanhood, not just of the Dodgers, but my son really didn't get to see Kershaw's peak
Hmm.
the way we did,
Right.
but he's devoured old videos and stats, and he can argue and does argue
That's right.
way more than I do these days on,
He's probably
you
seen
know,
it more times than we have. Let's be 100% honest.
yeah.
Some of those games.
And it's just so cool to hear him, argue the pro Kershaw case, and try to strike down the postseason narrative, the holes in that and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. And I think that was a big reason why. But it again, it speaks to the longevity and the fact that he was able to last that long, get to that point. And so yeah, that moment is one of many, of course, that's really cool that I always think about.
Yeah, and I love that baseball kind of worked out that way, where he was able to get that moment because there was like how many seasons, Frank, where Kershaw should have been the opening day starter. It was like so many seasons consecutive,
The
but
All
they were
Star
kind of
starter,
just
yeah,
like, yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry, All Star game starter, and they would just kind of give it to the flavor of the week, every single season, and it felt like it was kind of owed to him. It kind of like how Kobe Bryant only got one MVP award throughout his entire career.
yeah,
Um, and you look back and you're like, that's just silly, right? Like he was clearly the most valuable player. Um, yeah, that was a fun one, man. And for it to happen at Dodger Stadium, um, for him to finally get that start, you mentioned it, striking out Aaron Judge. I think what Otani got a single up the middle, but then he ended up picking him off. Just really fun times. And then this year's All Star game where he's actually like mic'd up, which is something that
yeah.
he would have never done earlier in his
No,
career. Uh, and talking to Joe Davis and John Smoltz while he's pitching, these are just little gifts to the fans, that we've all we all probably craved a little bit more of that early in his career. So the gift of him pitching this late is that he has that different perspective. He's able to maybe still be present in those types of moments, which is just awesome. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned your son. Your son's he's a teenager now. He's in high school. Kershaw's no, your son. No, your son's not 18, right? So he was born already into Kershaw's career, and uh, this is just something that Clayton Kershaw's given the Dodger fans. Somebody that's your son's age doesn't know what it's like for the Dodgers not to be good, right? Like he just doesn't. He doesn't.
right.
Right? Like they've been in the playoffs pretty much his entire life, as long as he's been watching at least, uh, and that's large part. That's just, I mean, Clayton Kershaw has so much to do with that, right? You would go into how many consecutive off seasons you'd go into. It's all right. It's gonna be Kershaw, this guy, and who else? Kershaw, this guy, and who else? And um, somebody that this is a new era of Dodger success. This is a new era of the Dodgers being as good as they are and really being, I think, the elite franchise in baseball. If I can be a little bit biased there. Um, so this is not a case where hey, like somebody else has really you know bared that weight in the past. I think in the past it's been. I mean, you think of like the Valenzuelas, the the Sandy Koufaxes, the Jackie Robinsons, guys like that. And but as far as like long strings of success, I mean, those guys. I mean, team
Right.
success. There's been nothing comparable to what we have now, and it's all been on his shoulders. I mean, it really. I mean, up until. I mean, honestly, I would argue to say up until Otani came. Like before that, it was even unfairly at some point. Like it was kind of all on his shoulders, and um, just the class that he's been able to do it with, and um, just being squeaky clean off the field, and just being as grounded as he's been. I know his faith has a lot to do with that, but also too, his relationship with his wife. They've been together since they were in what junior high probably, and um, just speaking now us as like older adults than when we first started doing this. Um, you tend to appreciate the discipline of what that is, right? I mean,
Yeah, right.
you're the king of the most popular team in Los Angeles. Are you kidding me? And to just really every single day to commit to being the best version of yourself. Um, what are those types of things meant to you, Frank?
Well, the fact that it's so true, and it's not just hyperbole or it's not just word, um, and it's not just throwing like false flowers at somebody, but his contemporaries all speak of it. Players that get traded into LA and that were an opponent of his for so long, and they get to see just a little picture of that work ethic and how he conducts himself in between starts, um, and the type of clubhouse guy he is, and they all speak of it. You know what I mean? And so that just shows you the authenticity. And I think that's when, us as sports fans that are so connected to a sports team, and you get to understand that, something's authentic as much as it hurts when you find out it isn't, right? When
Mm,
there's some kind of crisis happens or whatever, and
yeah.
it really just resonates right in a negative way.
Hmm.
Well, all the more when you find out it is authentic, and
Yeah.
the people all around him for the entirety of the career all speak to it.
Hmm.
It allows you to know that that type of character is attainable. Even
Yeah.
us, all of us being flawed, and him himself being a flawed human being, but we can all attain that type of character. You know what I mean? And there is an ability for us to develop a discipline in life. Whatever our crafts are, or whatever it is, and to reach that type of status of character. And so those are kind of like the bigger lessons that you take out of it, all the while cheering on, a favorite player.
Yeah, because obviously, like the just it adds so much more weight when he's performing at the level that he's performing, um, but you kind of nailed it there. Like as get older and just have more be more at stake in our lives, uh, to look to somebody like Kershaw and what he's done and kind of see the how, the why, the everything. I mean, it's really inspirational. I think he's one of those guys where we've probably seen the worst versions of him on camera, to be honest. Like
Yeah, right.
he's not a guy that really would wouldn't hide his emotions. He wouldn't. I mean, he was a guy that if something was bothering him, he wasn't going to pretend like it wasn't. Um, and I think those are probably the worst moments that you get from a guy like Clayton Kershaw. And what a gift that is. And you've mentioned to different guys that have maybe been in similar positions where we think they're one thing and then something comes out and you realize like, oh man, it's a letdown, right? And it actually makes you question a lot, like those types of
Yeah.
moments, right? It makes you question, um, like you mentioned, the attainability of things like that. But um, I just think, I mean, and to bring it back to the team, I guess, but like when your leader, when that's the guy who's who's bearing the weight of all that and he's not cracking, right? And he's grounded. Um, I mean, it reverberates, right? And I think a lot of careers, because of this guy being in the clubhouse with them, were probably longer, were more successful, um, were more disciplined, and I mean, um, that's something that's not ever going to be on a stat sheet, and I think it's always going to be worth talking about because um, even when it comes down to some of the free agent acquisitions, right? Like once the Dodgers got money, right, which is what 2012, 2013, the type of free agent they would go after then versus kind of now, it's evolved, right? And I think the long-standing character piece in that clubhouse has obviously been Clayton Kershaw. And we don't have to go too deep into like the old type of free agents and trade guys. Um, but when the guys you're adding to your roster are guys like Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, those types of guys, it's because your clubhouse can sustain that talent and that discipline, and whereas in the past it was a little bit more shot in the dark. I think the most recent, questionable character one was obviously I think Trevor Bauer was probably the one. Um, and the Dodgers were able to withstand that risk too. They were able to absorb that risk, um, but as far as like who the guys are in the clubhouse right now, I mean, like you top to bottom, it's character guys, and I think that is a I think a precedent that Clayton Kershaw set, and that's gonna go far past this. I mean, that's a legacy, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, perfect word for it. It's a legacy because it really established a culture and solidified that culture. And even when there was threats against that culture, like you mentioned one, a Bauer, maybe some Puig's antics in the past or whatever, those are one-offs. You know what I
mhm,
mean? And it's not you're going to conform to the culture. That's what culture is, right? You're going to assimilate, and that hasn't happened. That has been what we could come to expect the Dodger franchise to be, and you just see that whoever they add is a similar type of character, right? Look at Otani, the new guy, the new guy who carries the weight of everything. It's like goodness. I mean, I, like you were talking about Kershaw, we've probably seen his worst moments on camera. I think every curse word Kershaw's ever uttered has been
has been
after
on.
like a bad pitch on
Yeah, you're
camera.
right.
I
Yeah,
can't see him ever having done that at home.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
you're
and,
probably right. Yeah.
and I think Otani's even less.
Um, yeah, I think Otani takes it to new heights. Like I just can't. That's something I can't quantify. Like I can't even wrap my mind around the weight that could be on a guy's shoulders like that. Um, but let's be real. Otani came to a successful franchise. Like he landed in the perfect spot over here, and so it was a little bit hidden in Anaheim, uh, but with Kershaw, it wasn't that smooth when he got here, man. There was ownership issues. There was, oh, well, are we gonna extend Kershaw and he signs that 7-year deal? The guys that we were giving money to, the guys that we weren't giving money to. It was just a
Yeah.
lot of like, hey, here's basically your personal catcher, but we're gonna take him away from you and send him away, and then you're gonna get another personal catcher and we're gonna send him away. Like, and he's just been willing to. I mean, he's just kind of handled it with class, and I think that's something that we can all continue to learn from and can we draw from, especially those of us that have really just been in the weeds in those moments, and because the lows have been low, like the lows have
Right.
definitely been low, and um, I remember one year, I forget what year, it was one of those seasons where he was just kind of just ridiculous stats, but it was the year his dad passed away, um,
Mm.
and he had to leave the team for a few days, go to the funeral, whatever, came back, and like the day he came back was his start day, and I remember he pitched like lights out, but the team just didn't score, and the team ended up losing. Um, and I mean, how many of those have we seen? Like where the team doesn't, stretches in the season where the team just doesn't back him up with the bat, or the bullpen, fails them. But I mean, just the how that leads into his preparation for his next start just was unwavered, and which is I think the thing that you talk about, like ex teammates and guys that have played with them even for half a season or whatever. Like that's the thing they all talk about, just the discipline in between days. And from what everybody's saying, like even this season it hasn't wavered. Um, to be able to do that for 18 years is
Yeah.
crazy, just on a physical level. I'm younger than him. My job is not as physically straining as his, and I don't feel like I don't have that. I don't have that where every single day, um, I can clock in and do it to that level, and but to know that it exists, is great. It's awesome. Any other moments that kind of stand out to you, Frank?
Uh, yeah, the 3000K. I was there for that game, and my son as well. It was a adventure getting there, but it was because it coincided with Yamamoto's first bobblehead, and so it was sold out, and super crowded, way more than usual,
Hmm.
um, and so that was that was a cool experience just to be there, kind of knowing that the end is near,
Hmm.
and we didn't know he was going to retire yet, but um, this is probably the last major milestone that he's going to hit
Hmm.
on the career mark, and just to see it, and the fact that it was kind of like some of his career, it was a grind, and those White Sox were like they were hell bent on not allowing that
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
happen.
the score
And
didn't matter as long as it didn't strike out,
absolutely
right?
not. If they just grounded out, until he got out of the game, they were okay with that. Like they
Yeah.
just want to put the bat on the ball. And it was, I remember because he, Muncy got hurt that game. And so it was like the stadium was deflated, you know what I mean? Like, whoa, my gosh, because it looked really bad and
Hmm.
the injury at least. And so when he came back out for that sixth inning,
Hmm.
everyone thought like, there's no way. We've pulled this guy twice in the last few seasons where he's had a perfect game through 7 innings, two
Right, right,
times,
right.
and we pulled him because of pitch count and workload and stuff like that. So there's no way he's going out. Bummer. And so just when he got to the top of the step and he came out, the stadium went crazy. It was it
Love
was
that.
it was like a crazy moment. And we're like, he has to get it. He needs one more. And then the first two outs that he does get are not strikeouts. And we're like, gosh, this guy's not gonna happen. All right. And so to get the guy looking, it was just it was a great, great moment.
Yeah, yeah, it was, and I mean, how lucky we are that it was at Dodger Stadium, and that
Yeah.
he was able to do it there. And um, I was staying at my brother's for a few days when that happened, and my brother lives in Long Beach, so we were at a place called Legends in Long Beach. Um, I want to say it was a weeknight, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't
it
a
was like a
weekend.
Tuesday or so.
Um, so obviously the stadium was packed, but restaurants and bars were packed too. Like I mean, just what that speaks to, people were going out because they wanted to be around other Dodger fans to watch him get his 3,000 strikeout
Yeah.
is impactful, and then when it happens, everybody just the elation, like I that moment did stand out to me too. Obviously I saw it from a different seat, uh but for people to just be in tune to those types of things, because like I said, I mean, I'll go back to it. Like when I was young, people were just not as into it, man. They weren't as into it. We were the outliers, like we were like the outliers. We were um probably looked at a little funny because like what baseball,
Right.
uh, and and now, I mean, come on, I mean, it's a real blessing, and for people to share some of that passion, and but for like a player's career statistic to pack a bar in Long Beach, which is, I mean, that's dope, I think that's something to that just speaks to kind of like what he means to the city, um and and yeah, I mean, like look, the times that we've had to defend Clayton Kershaw, right? Like the times we've had to do it, and then the times we've had to kind of own up to like, yeah, okay, yeah, this was on him. This one was on him because that's
Yeah.
happened too.
Right.
Um, and I think he's just brought us through a journey, and it's been such a fun thing to experience. I don't know that we'll get to experience that with another player, to be 100% honest. Hopefully we do, right? But we'll see. And there's been guys that have come after him that were like, okay, like we didn't think that when Walker Bueller made his debut that Kershaw would outlast him as a Dodger,
Yeah, no kidding.
right? Like we didn't think that. Um, and here we are, um, and Bueller's career has enough to speak for itself as well, but that's more to speak to what Kershaw's been able to do. But I mean, see you in Cooperstown, man. I'm gonna be there. I don't know what is that, four or
Yeah,
five
yeah,
years
we're
from now.
we're
We'll
making plans too.
um, we'll make sure that happens. And needless to say, Clayton Kershaw, if you're ever in my restaurant, you're not paying a penny, bro. That's just the rules.
Yeah. You mentioned Bueller and just, the thing that's among many, moments for Bueller and Dodger fans that's always going to stick with us is him coming out of the pen to close out the World Series. And in one of his initial interviews, he says, well, what would 22 do?
Yep.
It's like he'd go out and do it. Like
Yep.
he'd put it on the line. And it really looks like that may have really put it on the line for Bueller in more ways than one, not just for the season, but he hasn't been the same since. And
Hmm.
yet still he went out and did it in some part, at least inspired by Kershaw.
Yeah. Yeah, and that speaks to that legacy. Like legacy continues to unwind. Like we're gonna kind of see more of what that is, but yeah, the impact it has on somebody like Bueller, and to just hear somebody advocate for Kershaw in a moment like that is beautiful, right? Because we've seen the flip side, um, in certain moments, but uh, for Kershaw not to be a part of that playoff run and just know that he still had an impact was special as well as so a very well deserved ring there as well. Um, so I mean, I think with a player like Kershaw, I mean, for us on a personal level, um, I mean, there's always going to be more words to say, more things we can do, but at the end of the day, it's just been like just a real blessing. I mean, it's a real blessing to be able to just be along for the ride of somebody that connected with us on different levels, and I mean, I couldn't be more proud to really have been as big of a fan of his that I've been, and it wasn't just another player on the team for us. This is a guy that you know I would I would plan my Dodger games around. Like, okay, when does Kershaw pitch? That's the day we'll go.
Yeah, really.
Those Kershaw versus Lincecum, Kershaw versus Bumgarners, Kershaw versus Scherzers, those types of games were games that were like, okay, like you kind of map it out 5 days from this day, boom, boom, that's probably a Kershaw day. Let's
Yeah.
buy tickets. Buy them now before it gets too late. And um, those were special. And I mean, just moments that are vivid in my head where it was 2013 was his first real playoff run as the ace. And I bought one ticket in the left field pavilion for that game, and I think back then the ticket was like $50, believe it or not, um, for an NLDS game. But I remember getting there super early and just watching his entire pregame routine, and just kind of watching the whole thing, and um, which, I mean, to me was special. I mean, those were formative years of mine, and
Yeah.
the world just felt so big in that moment. And as you get older, the world gets a little bit smaller. Um, but I mean, I think what that year we ended up losing to the Diamondbacks in the championship series, but it was special, man. It was special, and I mean, the memory is going to keep coming back. But anything else you have to add to Kershaw's career?
No, like you said, just the impact, inspiring. Again, I mentioned the word earlier, authentic, all around. And it just, you have to be, I think, to last this long and there has to be that degree of authenticity, of work ethic, of character, really. Talent will get you places, but character will keep you there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so just the fact that he was able to match up Hall of Fame level talent and be a Hall of Fame level person and do that for as long as he has. And let's be real, he probably could go longer,
Yeah,
but it's better to go a little earlier than a little too late.
for sure.
I was envisioning like the Roger Clemens. I don't know if you remember late in Roger Clemens's career, like the last few seasons, he came back every like June or July,
Yeah,
signed with a
yeah,
contender,
yeah.
and just cherry picked his way to try to ring
Mm-hmm.
chase. I was envisioning that, but just not cherry picking teams and just coming
Coming
back to the
back home.
Dodgers in June of every season or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it's happening now, it's better to do it now than to do it too late. I'm glad he's able to go out while he's not on the injured list
Mm-hmm.
and he's able to perform and try to contribute to a World Series run. Um,
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it too. And then even I mean, his wife, he shared a few of his wife's words, and thinking about like his just on a personal level, like the journey he's been on there, and what I think his fifth kid is on the way. Is that
on the way.
yeah? So I know it's something you can relate to. So it's special, man, and I mean, on the Kershaw start, looking over to that Loge level, oh yeah, Ellen's here, and with the kids, and um, I think those are just images that are going to probably be tattooed in our brains, of um, him coming out of the game, like, blowing kisses over to his family, things like that. And um, just them as a family. I just want to shout out them as a family of the way that they've done it too, because um, the they call them Dodger wives, right? Like the Dodger wives and kids and stuff are close now on a level that again, at the start of his career, that wasn't a thing that was really heard of,
No, right, right.
Um, And if you don't think that that has something to do with, you know, postseason success, and um, then they need to be wrong because I mean, last season the players, I mean, selfishly, right, decided to kind of not travel with their families and stuff, and they were going to kind of travel as a unit. That's a lot easier to do when the rest of the families are as close as they are, you know. And if you don't think that had something to do with the winning a World Series,
Right.
then you might be a little confused because um, something had to change there, and that was the thing. And so Ellen just is in the thick of that. You know, she's probably the one they probably all look to. You know, like I mean, to be real. So, uh, so, so yeah. I mean, I think now is probably a good time to transition over to this year's team, to the 2025 Dodgers, which we haven't had a real chance to talk about yet. And I mean, this team has me feeling confused a lot of the time. You know, to be 100% honest, and you know, we won a game last night where Magic numbers won. They're actually going to probably play here in the next 45 minutes or so. They're going to start um, and have a chance to close out the division. But it hasn't been easy. But honestly, when has it been, I guess, right? But Frank, I guess we'll start here. What's your confidence level going into the postseason?
Well, are we talking like scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, so 1 to 10. I mean, or if you want to compare it to years past, or you know, whatever,
Okay.
whatever feels right to you.
I mean, I'm fairly confident. Look, last year, the massive question mark was the starting pitching.
Yeah.
I mean, massive. And and we were able to do what we needed to do there. And get enough and have a dominant bullpen that was, you know, otherworldly.
Yeah.
And that helped carry us. Uh I think this year we all know it's inverted. And I think it really is inverted. Like we have a chance to have an all-time starting pitching run in this postseason, but we have a massive question marks with the bullpen.
Hmm.
So so I think the confidence this year is not much different than it was last year. It's just there's a different, there's different concern. Um, or the concern is placed a little differently than it was last season. So
Yeah.
I'm about an 8. I think that they're the defending world champions. You kind of have to beat the champ to be the champ, right? In a way. I mean, obviously it's
Hmm.
not totally true, but someone's gonna have to beat them,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And um, of all the contenders out there, um, I feel good about how the Dodgers match up against each of them.
Hmm.
And I think that if the Dodgers just hit the way they're supposed to and get enough out of their bullpen, we might have some help here than what we saw last night and maybe in the next couple of days.
Hmm.
Then I truly think that they have every chance to win the World Series. I've been saying that all season, even during the lowest of lows. I've been saying that. You can check my Twitter feed that as long as they're going into the postseason healthy,
Yeah.
they have as much of a chance as any other team in baseball. And you tell me which team you think is the unbeatable team out there. There isn't one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the main point because I think the best, quote unquote, the best team in the National League all season has been the Brewers, right? Um,
Right?
and a team like that is just look, it's not. They don't have the names the Dodgers have, or even the Phillies, or even the Padres, or even the or the Mets. So it definitely feels like that's a team that's been overachieving, right? And maybe that's not giving them enough credit. And I'm not a Brewers expert here, but um, given what the expectations were for that team going into the season versus now, it's 100% overachieving. Now, what that means towards like what's expected of them out of the postseason is remains to be seen. Um, but they still, I mean, given what they've done in the regular season, they have a lot to prove, right? The team like the Brewers has a lot to prove, and what it looks like the path would be for the Dodgers is opening round against wild card round against the Mets, right? And the winner there plays the Phillies, and then the winner that plays the other route, which would either be the Brewers, Padres, whoever. But um,
Cubs.
so Cubs, yeah, Cubs, which Cubs had our number this season, so that's probably the team I'm most scared of, to be honest. But um, so so yeah, I mean, look, yeah, somebody has to beat the Dodgers. You're 100% right, and I think I think a lot of it comes down to Dave Roberts, man. I think that's really what it comes down to, and we saw him make so many strides last postseason. Um, And then as you watch kind of this season go, you're like, oh no, you feel like there's been some some steps back in some ways in the ways that he manages his bullpen. But obviously, the way you manage a bullpen in this regular season is going to be different than October. And then we have some guys that have gotten healthy. What we saw out of Roki Sasaki last night is not what I expected to see, to be 100% honest. Not only like the stuff, I mean, I guess we always kind of knew the stuff, but just like the demeanor, the conviction that he was throwing with was
Yeah.
just not what we saw earlier in the season. And if you can ask him to do that for one inning for the rest of the season, um, and you can get something there, that's a game changer, right? I mean, yeah. And then we talked about Kershaw being in the bullpen, kind of what he could provide there, kind of being in that long man role. But I mean, guys, the rotation is silly. It's what, if you have to go in order, was it Yamamoto, Snell, um,
Glass now,
uh,
Tawny, what's the
Otani
order?
last? I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it would be, yeah, I would probably go Glass now, Otani, I guess, just for practicality, I guess you can say. But like, um, that means Otani probably doesn't get a start until, and he's been probably the better starter. I don't know. It's tough, man. But um, because that means he wouldn't get a start in the wild card round for sure. So we don't see him until the
I mean,
division series.
Sheehan just went 7 shutout innings,
It's
10
crazy,
Ks.
right? So you add that to the bullpen. That's nice too. But I mean, look, what concerns me is that we kind of have to depend on the Dodgers, especially their bullpen, to be a different version of themselves in the playoffs than they've been throughout the entire season, right? And that's not unheard of. We've seen it before, right? We've seen it with, I think, with other teams, and I hate to go back to this era, but the 2010, 12, 14 Giants, you never thought during the regular season that they were going to win the World Series, right? But they would kind of turn it up to another level when they got to the postseason. That's never been the Dodgers. In fact, it's always been the other way around, right? You kind
Yeah,
of
right.
you expect to see a little bit more out of them in the postseason, given what they gave you in the regular season. I think the Pujols era Cardinals, like the Pujols, Yadier Molina era Cardinals, like they'd get there, but they were just so dangerous in the postseason every single time, right? The Astros, right? Like the Astros, you'd be like, God, it's so annoying that they're still there. So there are scenarios which maybe this era of the Dodgers is that, man. Like maybe they're just waiting for October and it tends to click. That's terrifying, because I don't know if we can really depend on 2024 Teoscar Hernandez. He just hasn't been that hitter throughout the entire season. Now, can he turn it on? Sure, right? How big was Kike Hernandez for us last year? Like, and we know that he kind of turns it on every October, but that's not something you can go in the postseason like depending on really.
Right.
Um, and
The wild card.
it is. There's a few of them, and I think Mookie Betts obviously up late has been a lot better. But he had a tough season. Mookie Betts had a really, really tough season, and it seems like it's on the up and up, which is great, But um, we've seen him struggle in the postseason before, and Freddie Freeman's kind of one too, where it's like, I mean, Freddie's gonna always kind of get his numbers and produce and be valuable. Like you kind of always know that. Um, but what are we going to get out of Freddie Freeman in the postseason? Like I don't know. Like I think it's known that he's not 100% healthy, right? Like I think you can kind of just tell, but that doesn't seem to get in the way for a guy like him. So because he's just like a workhorse type. So there's a lot of just things where it's like, man, like we kind of just have to depend on guys in a way that they just haven't really produced for us over 162, right? But also to the Will Smith question, like what are his contributions going to be, if any? We don't know. Um, because if he comes back and he can hit but he can't catch or whatever, like that takes away the DH role. Or we're going to see Shohei Ohtani in the outfield. Does that mean he could be a bullpen piece? Like there's just some dominoes to fall there. But at this point, I think what we've seen out of Shohei Ohtani starting would be a complete waste to not have him as a starter, to be honest.
Right.
Um, but there's just a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions. But you kind of mentioned it. We're like, okay, but who's really stood out in the rest of the league? It's pretty balanced, man. It's pretty balanced. And when it's that balanced, you look at the upside, and there isn't a team that comes close to what the Dodgers have. Like, I mean, to be
Exactly. Yeah.
100%. Um, so I mean, Doc has his homework. Mark probably have their homework as far as like who they're going to go to um, in certain situations. And I'll be honest, it's a little scary, man. It's a little scary because we've seen the good and the bad with that, and Um, but I mean, drawing on recency and from last year, I think hopefully they come in with that type of experience and pull the right levers, man. But it's been it's been interesting, man. Like I mean, when you going into the season, everybody's like, okay, when are the Dodgers ever going to lose? You know, and I think right now we're not even at 90 wins. Uh,
I know.
yeah, this is gonna be our fewest win total in like a very long time, um, which is crazy. Which is crazy, and I think obviously injuries have something to do with that. But there have just been some underwhelming performances. Let's be real, and health questions. So yeah, man. I mean, it's up in the air, but I guess I like what you did with comparing it to last year's optimism. No, I don't think any. I mean, we all know how it ended up, but like, was anybody overly confident going into the
No, not at
postseason?
all.
No, not at all.
Especially when we had to face the Padres in that
Whew.
first round. There was just like I remember going into that. Remember, we were trying to. There was talk of throwing the number one seed in order to go on the other side of the bracket and not have to face the
Yeah,
Padres until the NLCS. And yeah, there was. I remember that talk. It was like, no, maybe we should just be the two seed instead. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so um, every year is going to be different. And I just feel like this year is different in that regard. We see how it is different from last year, and we're going to have to see it play out. But you know, I, I would venture to guess and say that if we talk to rabid fans of other fan bases that are going to the postseason, they all have
Oh,
scary concerns and question marks, and
definitely,
you
definitely.
know, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess yeah. We might be overstating some of these concerns because everybody has their own, But I mean, I mean when you look at it talent wise, like I think maybe the Phillies stack up the closest. Every time Kyle Schwarber steps up to the plate in any scenario, I'm terrified.
yeah,
That guy
I think he's gonna get a
just
home run every time. Like
yeah, and it feels like he does. Not to mention Bryce Harper just has a knack for that. So the Phillies in a short series worries me.
yeah,
That does.
it does.
Um, but I'm guarantee you that they're not excited about facing the Dodgers in a short series, right? So, um, hey, but we'd have to get through the Mets first or whoever that seed is. So, I mean, there's a lot that remains to be seen, but is there anything that you want to touch on that's happened this season, Frank, or something that you feel is worth mentioning going into the postseason, and you feel like we've kind of covered it?
I just think resiliency. I think the heart of a champion is such that they know what it takes
Hmm.
when other teams don't know what it takes,
Yeah.
and this team does. This core group does, and so I really see. I believe we're seeing that play out even now with someone like a Mookie Betts, who you mentioned, you touched on all-time career low season, but he's
Hmm.
turning it on. And look
Yep.
at this last 2 months. I mean, and even more specifically, the last month.
Hmm.
And so that's championship metal, that's championship character that
Hmm.
I feel we're witnessing. And
Hmm.
and that's why I can say, like, yeah, I feel fairly confident that,
Hmm.
you know, other teams don't have that. The Padres don't have that. The Phillies don't have that.
Hmm.
Whoever else, I'd be scared of. And on the AL side, I don't know. But
Hmm.
so that's where I feel good about that because we're human beings and we have tendencies and we lean on certain tendencies,
Hmm.
and so the Dodgers have that championship experience to lean on,
Hmm.
and no one else does really.
Yeah, and I guess as fans, it's kind of like that's a new territory for us, right?
Yeah, it is right.
Like having that when you look at the rest of the league and you look at us and we kind of have more of that experience than they do. Like we have Mookie Betts is a three-time champion. Let's be real, Freddie Freeman's a two-time champion, right? I mean, they've won it with other teams too. So it's I mean, you're absolutely right. Shohei Ohtani is a World Series champion, right? He's not just Shohei Ohtani anymore. He's a champion. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of champions in that clubhouse, which I think is yeah, it's something to draw on. But hey, there's a reason why back to backs hasn't happened in a while. But I mean, this team's about as built as any team has ever been to kind of do something like that. So a lot of work, uh, a lot of work remains. But yeah, man. Anything else you wanted to add, or you want to wrap it up?
I think that's good. Yeah, we could probably do another episode. Um, Maybe once
Yeah.
the season's all locked up and
Mhm.
seedings are there and predictions and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. We'll get into the nitty gritty with with the playoff picture on the next one. But yeah, I mean, look, it's always a thrill talking about Clayton Kershaw, and I think maybe we'll have another Kershaw on the episode when they retire his number, another one when he gets inducted to the Hall of Fame. So any reason to talk about Clayton Kershaw, we're gonna jump at it. So it's been good. It's been fun. It's been fun talking here, and we'll do it again soon. So appreciate everybody that stuck around this long. We're the Franks, you're the franchise, and we'll see you next time. Peace.